Om Lokaha Samastaha Suki Nobhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. Hi, everyone. We are live. We are here today to discuss cryptocurrency. So there was a news announcement this morning that I'm not really sure if this was precisely why we had a nice little dip there, but probably had something to do with it. U.S. to announce international cryptocurrency action statement. Okay, so we're going to make a statement, and it's about international cryptocurrency enforcement. So it seems like they're trying to come to some consensus on how to regulate cryptocurrency. It's kind of interesting that the U.S. Justice Department, it seems to believe that it has complete jurisdiction over the entire planet. Yeah, that makes sense, right? So in other news, not really much other news aside from the fact that we are in a correction, which if you've been following my videos, you would know this is not really unexpected. I've been tweeting about it and sharing about it. Before I look at the charts, however, I want to remind you that I do have several incredible products available, and they do help me. It helps to add to my trading funds, of course. It helps to pay my bills. There's no pressure whatsoever. But if you find value from these streams, then you will most likely find even more value from the reports and courses and the trading size spreadsheet, especially the small cap superstars. For those of you that think that the bull run is back in full swing, this would be a good time to at least take a look at this small cap superstars report. I am not of the opinion that we are back in full swing. And as I've mentioned, I am not purchasing any spot at present, but I could be completely wrong. This could be one of those tear your face off moves that just continues to move up and up. So we will see. Let's look at the charts today. It's been some real screwy PA as usual for cryptocurrency. Nothing really new there. It's been kind of a rocky ride here, as we've seen in the last 6 hours or so. I was up at 4 this morning as one of my alerts went off, and we had another swing fail pattern here. What was that, like the third one? And finally a breakdown beneath this diagonal, this ascending triangle, which many believe is a bullish movement. I don't pay much attention to these movements. Hi, Adam. Hi, Miguel. Okay, I'm now realizing that, okay, that's good. I can actually understand how this chat works. It took me a couple of months to figure that out. All you got to do is scroll up to see the comments. So after a lot of a build up here, this is a build up. There's the spring type action that happens. You see, this made me a little bit nervous because I did have a short here, and I don't like going to bed with shorts when it's reaching the it's reaching the climax. And you see that happen when a pattern reaches completion. I don't give much weight to triangles. I just know that it's going to resolve one way or the other. It's hard to tell which way sometimes, as was the case this morning. But of course, in a bull market, I would definitely be giving credence to the argument that there's going to be more upside, at least in the short term. But this isn't a bull market, and you have to be really careful right now because there's a lot of people that are quick to flip their bias, and you're seeing it. You see it all over crypto Twitter, you see it in the news, and people get really, it's the psychology, it's the trap. This is the bull trap. This is the psychology of the bull trap. Now, I'm not saying that we're just going to head straight back down from here. There may be this pullback is necessary and healthy. Maybe it pulls back lower and then it starts to consolidate, and then it makes another push up and moves even higher. And I think that's a likely scenario, given that the rest of the market, aka the stock market and the dollar index, behave. But there's no way to know for sure. We have to be prepared for every possible scenario. So we're going to review them today. And we'll do that for Bitcoin and Ethereum mainly, and I'll also look at some of the alts and see because I haven't been paying super close attention. I was scalping AVAX and Solana and MATIC. I made some money off some shorts there. I had a really nice short running here. Probably should have taken profits a little bit sooner because this wick kind of got me. I still made some profit, but the move was quickly bought up. So kind of confusing, right? Because sometimes this will happen. You'll see the breakdown out of the triangle, and then they call it a failed breakout. It breaks down, but then it gets back inside the pattern again, and then it breaks back above and moves the complete opposite way. So it's still possible that will happen. It's possible, but I don't think it's very likely right away, only because of what we saw in the stock market today. I sold off a lot of stocks, entered some short positions. But you can see, I saw this interesting chart that Benjamin Cohen shared yesterday, and it's really interesting because I've been following this diagonal closely, but what I didn't realize was that all of these major sell-offs occurred after a Tuesday. So the Tuesday marked sort of the height of these moves up. And then usually on Wednesday, there was a sell-off. And guess what? It played out like clockwork today. Let me see if I can actually find that and show you so you can see what I'm talking about, because it's I don't know where he pulled it from, but it's a really interesting, yeah, here it is. Let's see if I can move this over here. Notice Tuesday, something about Tuesdays. It's like the last hurrah before the drop down. So this will be now the fifth Tuesday where we saw the high followed by a pretty significant dip on Wednesday. And you can see what happened afterwards. There was more selling. So, but in this case, we may find some support for ES at around 3,800. It may just break right through and continue to head south from there. Again, be prepared, but at minimum, I'm thinking it's probably going to at least retest this 3,900. If it starts to find support down here, that might be a good place for long entries for cryptocurrency. For me personally, not financial advice. But it might also, like I said, it might continue and go all the way back down again, in which case crypto's definitely headed south from here, and that would be probably the end of the crypto rally. So watch closely what's happening in the stock market in the coming days. But I think this is the beginning of at least a mild correction, but most likely headed back down to 3,800. And then we'll have to reassess it from there. But the dollar index, meanwhile, it started out, it's been in this range here. This is a demand zone. This is a demand zone from a technical standpoint. So it's finding support here. And so it's likely going to bounce. And this doji here, you can see the rejection wick down here, there's some bullish pressure building up down here. There's a floor of support that wants to build, and we're starting to get the reaction for the Dixie, which means that the cable and the euro are probably going to head south from here for those of you in Forex, but also means that we're going to see market-wide corrections for both cryptocurrency and the stock market. So, which isn't really, again, it's not something that should come as a surprise, because this level, it's already an overextended move to the upside. And this is resistance, and it's proven resistance on multiple occasions. You don't have to just take my word for it. You can see it here and here. You could say here, deviation here, okay, and now here. So it's going to take some real strength to push through this. And so it's almost like it needs to coil up and come back down again. Maybe, I'd say minimum target would be like 19,600. And then from there, maybe it comes all the way back down to 18.6, 18.7, 18.8, starts to consolidate, and then we see that move up. Okay. And then from there, I'd be looking to get more long exposure again, and hopefully it can break through and start to push all the way back up here to this, between this weekly level here, this 24,300 and 25,200. That would be a nice run, and that would be give a lot of strength to the accumulation argument. That's going to get a lot more people interested in the markets again. And I think that's what I'm hoping for. And as a trader, I don't really care what the market does. I can trade it either way. But as an investor and as a YouTuber, I would prefer to see this move back up again. So you could say that's a little bit of confirmation bias. We don't know for sure. We'll have to see how sharp the drawdown is. If it's a very sharp, fast drawdown, then definitely I would be more cautious when taking long positions if it did come all the way, if it just cratered all the way down to 18,600 in a day. If it does that over the course of 3 or 4 days, and then sometime next week, we see the push back up again. So it's a gradual move down, which actually so far has been the case. We haven't seen, there was a big drop down, but there was that initial rejection wick. So it may just sort of bleed out from here for a couple of days, and then maybe next week we see a return to the long side. But trading, counter trend trading in this sort of environment, just always keep in mind, like for me personally, tighter stops. I'm not exposing as much. I'm taking profits sooner. And this was a perfect example of that, a perfect place to take some profits, and, so that you're not getting stuck holding the bag when it reverses on you. So the strength is still there. The underlying strength is still there. And if it wasn't for the stock market, I think that this would probably have broken through to the upside today, which is kind of hard to believe. But that's just, it's been showing remarkable strength. So it may not ever pull back all the way to 18,600. We may be lucky to get back down to 19,600 and see what happens from there. So is this all making sense to you guys? Is this helpful? Give me some comments in the chat. It's kind of a quiet day today. It's not easy to trade this. I know that, like for me personally, I've watched my P&L bounce around, and I'm lucky that I made some profits, but it's just, this is not really conducive to trading for the most part. I've been doing better in the stock market the last couple of weeks. So as far as Ethereum goes, it's kind of doing the same thing, right? And it's broken out of this ascending triangle to the downside, and Ethereum has shown more weakness. So I have a larger position, a larger short on this, but I re-entered this after, so it bounced, took profits, and then I re-entered, but we'll see if I get stopped out here because it's still trying to push up. I think ultimately Ethereum should come all the way down at minimum to 1460, and then I'm targeting about 1425. And how do we establish those levels? Just look back on the chart, look to the left. This is a previous little ledge here. You can see the support here. You could see that. I mean, realistically, it seems like Ethereum should come down even lower than that, maybe 1350. But these are conservative targets, again, because it's counter trend trading. It hasn't, again, ideally, it would have already pulled back. Each one of these moves would have been followed by a pullback, at least to the EMAs, but that didn't happen. Now we're most likely going to get a sharper pullback. It could do something like this. It could be a repeat of this. I think that the max pain scenario for this in this instance would be to bring it all the way back down, gradually bleed out, maybe come back down to 1350, somewhere in the 1300s, and then it hits a major level, starts to consolidate, and then it slowly creeps back up again, and then puts in new local highs, comes up to this quarterly level and maybe beyond. And then we're targeting up to 1800, 1780, and then maybe somewhere around 1900, and then 2000. I don't know if it's going to make it up here, but even if I wouldn't be surprised to see it at least come back and retest 1780 for Ethereum. So tough crowd today. You guys are quiet. AVAX, let's look at some of the alts and see. I'm cautiously watching AVAX, Solana, and MATIC. Those are the top 3 alts uh, that I find trade worthy right now. But AVAX, this is a much larger range here between 1530, 2850. So I think that this could be a really great opportunity. If it I think it should definitely come down to 1530, but it may come all the way back down to 13 to 14, about 14, and then start to push back up from there. And then in that case, that would be definitely a long trigger, take profit here, 15, back at 1530, and then maybe back at this high here, 18, and then pushing all the way up potentially to 2022, and then ultimately coming all the way up to 2850. So that would be a big move for AVAX, and that's going to require, of course, that Bitcoin really shoots up to 25K. But if that's the case, there's nothing to stop AVAX from really rocketing here. It's set up for it. This is the setup that you'd want to see, and it's just waiting for the pullback. So just to be crystal clear, I'm definitely not looking to take longs right now. I want to see some stability in the stock market before I long anything. Also, we need to keep in mind, oh, my nose is really itchy today for some reason. We need to keep in mind that we've got FOMC on February 1st, and we've seen how that goes. I mean, it could go either way, but I'm leaning towards bearish since January's predominantly been a rally and probably will continue to be so, but I think the rally could end around February 1st. And so if they're going to push it up strong, it's probably going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And of course, we already had a push up, but I mean pushing it even higher. So that's kind of a timeline to look at, because even though we are expecting a 25 basis points hike, it's still significant. And if you just take the cumulative effect, and who knows what Mr. Powell's going to say that's going to incite investors, you just never really know. So you could even say that the 25-point basis hike is already priced in, because so many people are paying such close attention to that now that it's like a month away and everybody pretty much knows how it's going to go. So the rally is sort of front running that. So after that, then there's no real reason for the markets to continue to pump. And then the realities of the recession begin to set in. And then the tone of the media starts to change, and they start to push a whole different agenda. And then we're back where we started. So not to be pessimistic, just being realistic with you and not giving you all the hype, because I know that may get followers, but it doesn't make money. It's not going to make you any money. So just, keep the hopium in check, folks, because this is a very promising start to the year. And as I mentioned, I do believe that 2023 is going to be the end of the crypto bear market, that there's going to be a break from accumulation, but it's not happening just yet. We're getting closer though. I can say that for sure. So let's see if we can take a look at Solana for a moment here. And I'm just going to keep carrying on. If I don't hear anything from you guys, I'm just going to go through these charts, and then you can comment after the fact if you want. Solana is definitely trying to break down, but again, every time it just comes back up, these rejections are pretty annoying. It seems like I definitely feel like Solana is eventually going to come at minimum down to this level that I mentioned on Monday, 1844. And then we'll see what happens there. Maybe consolidates there for a while. And if it consolidates and breaks a pattern, then that's an obvious long, right? Because Solana was way oversold here, and we have a nice big bottom here, and there's a lot of clear blue sky to target up here. So targets for that would be, conservative target would be 2180, and then from there you've got 2380, and then from there you've got this supply zone up at 28, and then it could even push all the way up to 3032. There's no telling what Solana could do. So I'm watching this one closely, but I would not long it from where it sits right now. So MATIC, you can see they're doing what we were hoping they would do, or at least I was hoping. They're starting to pull back. MATIC is pulling back, and now it's finding some local support at the top of this previous range here, but I think it's going to ultimately break back into the range and probably break down and maybe find support down at around 87 cents. And then from there, we'll see. We'll revisit it. So it's just sort of watching, waiting, setting your alerts, seeing, because sometimes these alerts will go off and in the middle of the night. And I know I'm actually in that mindset. I'm so used to having a reaction, emotional reaction when I hear these, that I can just leave my computer on in the other room when I go to sleep at night. And if the alert goes off, then it will wake me up if it's a significant alert. So be careful how you use this, because it can throw off your sleep patterns, but it's also really helpful because you're not going to be paying attention to these charts all the time. So for MATIC, again, 87.875 would be an area I'd be looking to maybe take a long. Would I short this? Maybe. Would I short this if it came back inside this range here, which it looks like it wants to, and then we get a candle that clears this, and then maybe a retest, and then it breaks down, then I would trade. That would be my short trigger. So we're close to a potential short for MATIC. And if Ethereum starts to break down again back below 1500, if Ethereum gets below 1500, that's going to be a short trigger for MATIC. That, for me, I mean, that's what I'd be looking at. So because they move in tandem a lot of the time. So Atom, I haven't been watching this one, but it's also obviously deviated above this level here, this resistance, and now it's back inside. And I think at minimum, it's going to head down to this weekly level down here. This is definitely key support for Atom. So if they get back down here and they start to consolidate and Bitcoin continues to show some strength, then these are going to be like long triggers across the board. For Atom, this is 1057. That it may not come down that far. It may only come down and start to consolidate somewhere in this zone here. I think it's going to come down further than that. I think it's going to come down to 1050, 1060, and then we'll see. If it gets back inside here, however, then you can treat all of this as one big deviation of this range here. Okay, so in that case, you'd be looking for signs of weakness, maybe a failed retest, and then a short trigger down, and shorting it down to 965 and then down to 875. So that's at Solana, MATIC, Atom, AVAX, Bitcoin, Ethereum. We'll look at Litecoin. Litecoin's also been stubborn, but I think it ultimately will break down here, and it's probably going to come down, get back inside this range, and then if it shows some weakness, depending on what Bitcoin's doing, this would be a short trigger for me, probably shorting it down at minimum to 77, and then from there looking at about 74. Some conservative short targets for Litecoin. Litecoin also has a lot of potential for more upside. So this technically, keep this in mind, that this technically is not a lower low or a lower high. Okay, it's actually this, again, it's a healthy pullback. So this is a move up, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. This would be wave 4, and then wave 5 could bring us take profit here, 93.50. This whole area here, I'm shading this basically as I'm identifying this as a larger supply zone. So 93.50, and then all the way up, could come all the way up to 106, 107. And we know how Litecoin can pump when it really starts to get moving. So I actually like the structure of Litecoin right now. And I've noticed that it's held up better than a lot of the alts over the last couple of days and weeks, actually. But but I wouldn't long it here. I want to wait to see if it comes back down to this level here. So I know exactly where to trade. And sometimes this can feel a little bit monotonous, or it can feel like a little excessive. But if you don't know the levels where you're going to do your business, then when it gets to those levels, then you're going to be without a clue, and then constantly searching for a trade when you could just basically, again, have your, this is the level that I'm interested in. If it doesn't come down to 74, I don't care about Litecoin. I don't care if it pushes back up again. Maybe if it gets above, if just say this is just completely reverses and the rally continues, and then it gets back above 93, consolidates here, then I would maybe consider a long trigger there. But then we'd be pretty late in the rally at that point, right? So that's why I stick to one level here. And for each of these are the majors that I've identified here. I have another list, and I will occasionally look at that list to see if there's anything that has potential there. And if I see that, then I'll add it back to this list. And the reason that I have two lists is because I want to keep my mental bandwidth to a minimum. I want to just see the charts that I need to see. And so let's actually take a quick look and see if there's any of the altcoins that might be of interest. Okay, so these are, XRP looks pretty good. Actually looks cleaner than usual. Of course, those are some take profit targets there. And I was identifying the triple bottom, but this was a while ago. So let me get rid of this here. And get rid of this. So yeah, so we're looking at maybe a retest down here, 0.37. Even if it gets below here and then it gets back above, and then we see it break above, that would be a long trigger for XRP. And you'd be looking to target, we've got this level here. This is the mid between in this range here. So we've got, this is 0.4172, and then we've got 0.447. And it's probably going to face some serious resistance here. But if it breaks back inside here, then we're looking at targets even higher, about 0.477. And then this monthly level here, this is about 51 cents for XRP. So that would not surprise me in the slightest to see XRP make a move like that. Look at what it did last time. Almost the same, almost identical, right? This between this here and this here. And you can see the sort of it's very bottomy. I don't know how else to put that. But then it had a pretty strong move up here. And so this actually wouldn't even be as high as the last move. And yet we've seen a stronger rally across all of cryptocurrency. So 52 cents is definitely not out of the question for XRP. I would just be patient here and wait and see. It may come back all the way back down to 35 and then bounce off this level here. So I haven't looked at Phantom. I'm curious about Phantom. Phantom was pretty strong the last couple of weeks. It actually cleared this zone with some ease, and then it consolidated and broke down. I wouldn't trade Phantom. I don't really find this interesting. It's a little bit too erratic to me. Yeah, and it looks pretty overextended still. And we've seen what happens when it gets overextended. Look at what happened here. Just, very V-shaped moves. It's not very, it's exciting if you can catch the move, but it's not easy. It's not very predictable. There's not any clarity around this chart to me. So I'm not going to give you any levels for that. And we'll do maybe a couple more here. So Link, what's going on with Link? What are you doing, Link? Where are you going? Where would be a good level for Link? Okay. I want to see Link come down. I would want to see Link come back down somewhere in here. So this range here, this is between 620 and 606. I'd want to see it come down and consolidate in there and show continued strength and then break back above. There'd be the long trigger. And in that case, it'd be targeting up at these highs again. That would be around $7. And then it'd be targeting up here. That's around 725. And then from there, maybe 750. And then we're looking at this resistance area here. This is 776 for Link. And that's also corresponds to, so this is actually the mid of this green range here. Okay, there's a lot of, this is a value area here. There's a lot of price action that's stuck in here. Okay, so it's likely going to get pulled back in. It's like a magnet, right? It's going to likely get pulled back in. But so if it pulls back first and then we get back inside, well, guess what? It's likely headed much higher. So these are conservative targets. It could come all the way up to this 818, 819 level here. Okay, and those are, I think that's from a daily highs. Yeah, those are daily levels there. But we're kind of, where are we in this quarterly range here? Still on the bottom portion of it, and Link looks like one big accumulation here. So, and it's still in the bottom. So Link could have a lot of upside, more so than some of the other alts, like Phantom, for instance. Like Link looks to me like it may shoot up higher if there's another push back above. But I wouldn't short Link here. So I wouldn't short it here because there's not a whole lot of room for, in my humble opinion, for it to move down without finding some support. So it's the risk reward it's not high enough for me to consider shorting that. So for DOT, I haven't looked at DOT in a while. I'm not going to look at DOT. I don't care about DOT. Sand has been really, really pushing up a lot, and now it's kind of in no man's land. But I mean, it's definitely looks to be heading south. I think the other day this was what I posted. Was this on Monday? I don't even remember anymore. I'm covering so many charts now, but actually the same rules apply here. Sand at minimum needs to come down to 6.6188. And that's the top of this range here. Okay, so comes back down here. That's the minimum. I think it could come lower. Maybe it deviates back inside, comes to the mid around 0.588, and then maybe comes back down to 0.55. But at that point, you've got to question whether this uptrend it has completely reversed. So that would be a pretty big move for sand. So I mean, maybe it just comes back down here. Any of these levels, if it comes back down, consolidates, pushes back up, it's a long trigger. It's just if it gets back inside, and then you've got to debate whether it's worth it to try and get in at the mid level. For me, it's not usually, but if it comes all the way back down here, but then I'd also be targeting, probably having more conservative targets if it came back that far. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it makes perfect sense to me. So I haven't looked at Uniswap in a while. I'm just going to take a quick look at this and see. Yeah, it's not worth it. I don't see anything here that I would want to trade. Wow, Aptos is up 7.5% today. How is that even possible? That makes no sense. That's the way it goes sometimes. Wow, it's like 7. There must be some announcement. Lido's up a little bit too, but 7 and almost, it's pumping actually. What is this doing? Wow. That's impressive. Totally defied the rest of the market. Does anybody know what happened with Lido? Let's see if there's any news about it. Controversial tokenomics. That was from October 19th. Yep, they definitely have controversial tokenomics. That's for sure. So for those of you that are not familiar with Aptos, these are former Meta employees. It does have a lot of potential in the next bull run from an institutional standpoint. So I am keeping an eye on it. But it looks like, wow. I mean, it's kind of impressive that it's doing this well right now. I don't know how much longer this can last. I probably wouldn't, again, I wouldn't long this because, I mean, this sounds like something fundamental for it to be bouncing around this much. And it's at a level of resistance. But if it breaks through, let's just say that it breaks above this, then the sky's the limit, basically, because we don't have a lot of history to go off of. I mean, where would some obvious targets would be around 945 and then all the way back up here, which, yeah, about 1015. So there is potentially more upside, but we'll see if this rejects here. If it rejects, then most likely headed back down to, I wouldn't fade this just because you've got to be suspicious when you see something pumping when everything else is dumping. There's got to be something behind it. But it could come back down here. So that's Aptos. I think I've covered at least 10 alts now. I'm not hearing from any of you. I don't know if the comments are even working today, but and maybe you guys have lost interest because the rally's come to an end, or at least it seems that way. But I'm going to get back to it. I'm working on a video today that I'm starting to actually like film clips from my life, and I'm going to start including that into my videos, and I'm just exploring filmmaking. So we'll see how that goes. If you don't like it, too bad. I hope you like it, but I'm going to give it my all and see how it works out. It's a very strange world that we live in, and you have to be prepared for pretty much everything that they can throw at you, because they're going to be throwing a lot at us. It's not over. 2022 was not so good, but 2023, I think it's going to be a better year overall. And I think that there's a lot to look forward to with cryptocurrency, and I'm excited about that. But still, I think that we need to be really cautious, even after this rally. If it does come down and we establish that we're in accumulation, okay, this would be a buying opportunity, right? This would be a spot buying opportunity. If it gets back inside, blows beneath here, rejects, higher volume, classic Wyckoff schematic, this is a spot buying opportunity. But that's not to say that it's not going to do that maybe another time, maybe even spring a little lower. So you've got to be prepared for that. You also have to be prepared for a scenario come spring where we break out of the accumulation. Let's just assume that this is the accumulation. We break out, okay? And then it pulls something like a 2019, 2020, where it starts to look like the bull market's really back on. We're back up at 40, 45K. And then all of a sudden, it comes all the way back down and retests the top of this accumulation range. This is a trader's market. This is not an investor's market. But an investor can be a trader. An investor can be savvy enough to see signs of weakness and to follow the macro climate and to enter and exit accordingly. But I think there's going to be a lot of surprises in 2023 and 2024. I don't think it's going to be a linear path. It's not going to look anything like previous bull and bear markets. We're probably going to establish a much larger range. That's what I believe to be the case. And I think that's going to reflect a lot of the uncertainty that we're seeing. And it's unprecedented, the amount of confusion, the amount of doubt, the amount of fear, and it oscillates. It's like you've got to look at the composite man, as Wyckoff would say. It's like take everyone on the planet as one individual and mix all those emotions together and compare today to 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 4 years ago. and think about in terms of stability. If it were stable, then we would expect this sort of accumulation and then the stair-stepping movements back up again. Oh, I didn't want to do that. The stair-stepping movements back up again into the next bull market. That would be a stable environment. This was a more stable environment. That this was after, but if you look at around COVID, that create a lot of instability. And so we have a number of global factors that are creating overall instability. And so that's why I would lean more towards a much larger range. If you look at 2019, if you just take a look at this here, you'll see that this was definitely, I mean, for the most part, this was a range, right? So between 6,400 and 13,800, this was a range. This was a deviation from the range during COVID, but that was this range actually lasted for almost 500 days. And that was after we broke free from accumulation in the 2018 bull market in 2019, okay? So we were in this range for over 500 days after breaking free of accumulation. So you have to be prepared for anything. And a lot of people, a lot of investors, maybe they got in somewhere down here, great, and they were not underwater for too long, but still they had to sit out that 500 days before it really broke out. Whereas a trader would have identified the larger range and traded in both directions the entire time, and then waited for the breakout here, and then really went in full force here. So it's just, strategy is really important. Knowing what you're going to trade, what your style is, but expect the unexpected. That's the theme for 2023. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, that you found it useful, and let me know in the comments below if there's any charts that you're curious about or that I missed today. I try to cover all the majors, the ones that are the most significant and the ones that I trade the most, but I'm always open to your feedback. So again, have a beautiful rest of your day.